who was worshipped with sexual rituals and blood sacrifices. Her name was Ishtar, and people praised her by sacrifices and painting eggs with their blood. And today, we celebrate her without even realizing it. Let's talk about the dark truth behind Easter. Now, most Christians believe Easter is about one thing: the resurrection of Jesus. And yes, the resurrection is real. It's the foundation of our faith. But here's what nobody tells you. The word Easter is never mentioned in the original Greek or Hebrew scriptures. It's not in the Torah. It's not in the Gospels. It's not in Paul's letters. The word only shows up once in the King James Bible in Acts 12:4. But even that is a mistranslation of the Greek word Pascha, which means Passover, not Easter. So how did we get from Passover, the celebration Jesus kept, to Easter, a word with zero roots in biblical truth? Because the early church never celebrated Easter. They honored Passover, remembering Jesus as the Lamb of God, crucified during the very same feast he once shared with his disciples. But somewhere along the way, everything changed. Now here's where the rabbit hole gets dark. You see, the resurrection of Jesus didn't change, but the way we celebrate it, that got hijacked. Let's talk about Easter's real roots and the ancient goddess hiding in plain sight. Her name was Ishtar, a Babylonian goddess of fertility, war, love, and chaos. And how was she worshipped? With temple prostitution, with blood sacrifices, with ritual sex magic, and yes, with eggs and rabbits as symbols of fertility. Now what I just shared is only the surface of the story. Because what if I told you the goddess behind Easter wasn't just a myth? What if her spirit never died and is still being worshipped in churches today without anyone realizing it? In the Forbidden Vault, we're diving into the ancient rituals of Ishtar, also called Astarte and the Queen of Heaven. We're talking about blood sacrifices, cross-dressing priests, sex rituals inside temples, and how some believe she shows up today in the spirit of Jezebel. This isn't just a holiday problem. This is spiritual infiltration. And this content is too intense for YouTube, so I had to put it in the vault. If you're ready to uncover what mainstream Christianity refuses to touch, click the link in the description and unlock the vault now. Now pause and think. What holiday today features bunnies, eggs, and sunrise worship and claims to be about resurrection? It's the same blueprint, just rebranded. Here's something wild. In ancient Babylon, people would sacrifice babies to Ishtar, then dye eggs in the blood of those sacrifices. And today, we paint eggs for Easter, and no one asks why. This isn't conspiracy, it's history. So how did this get into the church? Enter Emperor Constantine in the 4th century. He legalized Christianity, but he didn't want to give up the empire's old traditions. So he blended them. Instead of honoring Jesus through Passover, he replaced it with a celebration of the goddess of spring. And that's when Easter was born. Not as a biblical feast, but as a spiritual remix, a collision of resurrection and rituals that God had forbidden for centuries. So you might be wondering, if Easter isn't biblical, how did it get into the church? 2 words: power and politics. In 313 AD, Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire. Sounds like a win, right? But here's the twist. He didn't convert to follow Jesus. He converted to control. Constantine didn't want a faith that clashed with Roman culture. So instead of removing pagan practices, he merged them with Christian ones. And in 325 AD, during the Council of Nicaea, he made a bold move that changed history. He replaced Passover, the feast Jesus himself celebrated, with Easter, a holiday tied to pagan spring festivals. Why? Because Passover was seen as too Jewish. And Constantine wanted a universal, Catholic religion, one that could unite Romans, pagans, and Christians under one banner. So they cut the roots. They took the resurrection and planted it in foreign soil, mixed with fertility rites, goddess worship, and sun rituals. And just like that, the great switch happened. The church traded the Lamb of God for the goddess of spring. They replaced biblical truth with cultural compromise. And today, we still celebrate that switch without even realizing it. You ever stop and wonder, what do bunnies, eggs, and sunrise have to do with Jesus rising from the grave? Here's the truth: nothing. But they have everything to do with pagan worship. Let's break it down. Number 1, the Easter Bunny. People say, oh, it's just a fun tradition for kids. But rabbits have always been symbols of fertility because they reproduce fast and often. In ancient rituals, they represented the goddess of life, sex, and rebirth, not innocence, not resurrection. They represent fertility magic. Number 2, Easter eggs. Now this one goes deep. The egg was seen as a symbol of new life, sure, but not in a holy way. In ancient Babylon, they believed a sacred egg fell from the sky, and from it hatched Ishtar, the goddess of fertility and war. To honor her, people would dye eggs during her festival. In some cultures, they even painted them with the blood of sacrifices. So when you see baskets of pastel eggs today, understand, it's not just decoration, it's a ritual legacy. Number 3, sunrise services. We're told it's to honor the moment Jesus rose. But where else do we see worship at sunrise? In pagan cultures, sunrise was sacred, the time when sun gods were honored. Even in the Bible, God warned about this. Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 18 says, "The children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven." Sound familiar? Sun worship, ritual cakes, a female deity, all happening in the morning. And God? He called it abomination. So when we say Happy Easter while baking treats, hiding eggs, and attending sunrise services, we have to ask, are we honoring Jesus or unknowingly continuing something far older and far darker? All right, now that the veil's been lifted, what do we do with all this? Because for a lot of people, Easter is just a day to celebrate Jesus, a time for family, church, good vibes. But now you know the roots. And here's the thing about roots. If they're rotten, the fruit is too. We can't just slap Jesus' name on ancient rituals and call it holy. Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 30 warns us, "Do not inquire about their gods, saying, 'How did these nations serve their gods?' I will do the same. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way." God doesn't want blended worship. He wants pure devotion. Now that doesn't mean you stop honoring the resurrection. It means we return to doing it God's way. Jesus died and rose during Passover, not Easter. That's the celebration he kept. That's the timeline the Bible gives us. And maybe it's time we stop trading truth for tradition. Because here's the real dark truth. Satan doesn't need you to worship him directly. He just wants you to worship God the wrong way. He loves when people use ancient idols and call it Christianity. He loves when confusion gets more attention than conviction. But not here. Not anymore. So now I want to hear from you. Did you know this about Easter? Has this changed the way you look at it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every